Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at recruiting firm Riderflex. If you enjoyed today's guest interview, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe to the Riderflex podcast. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand. Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Ian Blair on the Riderflex podcast. How you doing, Ian?
I'm doing great. Pleasure to be talking with you today.
Yeah, man. How old are you? Like 22? I mean, geez, you look like you look super young.
I got started when I was 20, but I'm 29. So
29.
I almost have a decade of software under my belt at this point.
Wow. Okay. What do you feel old? If you're a startup,
I'm starting to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I turned 30 in May, so I do. Feels like I'm getting up there.
Give me the personal story, family, siblings, mom, dad, where you grew up. Give me some of that.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Bay Area, in the whole like epicenter of tech, and my dad was a successful entrepreneur. So my dad comes from like small town USA in upstate New York. And then, saw what was happening out in Silicon Valley, wanted to be a big part of that. And then he ended up co-founding the company that created the world's first Ethernet switch. And it was Cisco's third acquisition. So like that was kind of his first big hit. And then he had another home run after that during the whole .com boom.
Wow.
Where, the company IPO'd, was worth more than Xerox at one point.
Is he on a yacht? Is he on a yacht somewhere? You just call him every once in a while? What's he doing?
Yeah, he actually, he lives about 45 minutes away from me in Paradise Valley, Arizona. So recently moved out here actually about a year ago. But I've had a fun life growing up with my dad. We actually owned an IndyCar team after that.
What?
Yeah, so IndyCar racing. I was young though. I was only like 12 years old when we were doing that, but we did almost win the Indy 500. We finished 4th. So like that's a bit of like my background, like growing up as a kid and then like going into college, I knew I was an entrepreneur, from an early age. Like I was like 12 years old doing lemonade stands. I was selling golf balls on eBay that I would go find off the golf course. So like, it's always kind of been in my DNA. And then like, right when I was 18, 2 weeks into college, is like, I'm starting a business and I'm going to figure this out.
Really?
And so that's when I kind of like developed my passion for, developing websites, internet marketing, SEO. And then like, for me, web development was a means to an end, to be able to sell products and so forth. But really like kind of like the magic was marketing. And then by the time I was like a junior in college, iPhone 4 had just come out, like Siri was the new hot thing and like the App Store was new. So I kind of approached my curiosity with apps like similar with websites. And, I built my first mobile app when I was in college. It was called the University Exchange. And we tried to replace the school bookstore for like buying and selling textbooks. And like I blast emailed the whole school saying the bookstore was closing down. And the only way they could buy and sell textbooks was with the app that I developed. So
I can just hear like the university president. He's like, "What the fuck you doing, man? You can't do that."
Yeah, exactly. And I actually had to volunteer and sort books in the bookstore after. So, I mean, the whole school leadership got involved and got called into the dean's office. But
that is so good. That's that is good. You got to go to the dean's office. They're like, "What? What are you doing?" That's pretty funny. How long did you have to volunteer?
A couple of days. It was awful though. It was torture.
That's so good. Okay. What was the name of that? Was that what was the name of that company?
That was called, it was like just an app. It was the University Exchange. And then, then it really kind of sparked the idea, like developing a mobile app was really hard, but they're like very powerful tools. So like, how could we create these like templated apps and sell them over and over again? And then, I was like towards the end of my first semester of junior year, I got connected with another individual. I kind of had a similar vision, and he knew about these like mobile app development platforms. And what was really neat about these is you could white label them. So we could basically start our own software company, as a white labeled app builder, for, $300, $500 a month or something.
Okay.
And that's what we started doing. We started selling apps to businesses, and and nonprofits. And
did it take startup cash? Did your dad have to help you with that, or did
no,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that was because when you're just white labeling one of these platforms, I mean, it was pretty cheap. It was like a couple $100. So we were making money, but then we ultimately got to the point where it was like, if we're going to be a real business, we have to have our own technology, because people wanted, a lot more customization than these platforms could offer. That's when my dad got involved to fund the initial development of the software.
Okay.
And, throughout that time, we were, continuing to acquire customers, build more apps. And then once we kind of got to like version 1 of our platform, that's when we ultimately launched BuildFire, where, we are now one of the largest, do-it-yourself app builders in the market. And we also build apps for people. So you can there's kind of 2 paths you can go down. It's like, would you like BuildFire to build your app for you? And we build the app, using our platform. And it's kind of like you think of them as like Lego pieces. Like we have this whole marketplace of like hundreds of features you can choose from to build your app. So, say you were building an app for a conference, you could grab a list, like all your speakers, your event calendar, maps, videos, like all of these are like features and like modules we have available in our platform that you can quickly, choose from to like rapidly prototype and build your app, rather than having to build everything from scratch. So like fundamentally, we're democratizing app development.
I see.
So,
I see. How big is the company? How many employees?
Yeah, so we have about 70 people in the business, and we've built well over 10,000 apps on our system. So
really, congratulations.
Yeah. And so we have tens of millions of people.
You basically been doing that since you got out of college, right? I mean, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it really started off kind of like second semester my junior year, and then what was interesting is I had, 4 months of summer break to, build this. And then I had to go back to school for one last semester. Fortunately, I graduated early. So if I had to do a full year, I would have just dropped out. You would have just said, like, no way I was going back. But,
now,
I did finish
10,000 apps, and you've got 70 employees. Where are you based? San Diego?
Yeah, so I was based in San Diego for 4.5 years. And then, obviously COVID hit and really changed things. None of my employees wanted to go back to the office. And, also just, I grew up in California my whole life, and it has been on a downward trajectory the last decade. And, frankly, I was just over the homelessness and like seeing abject poverty day in and day out. I mean, that's just the truth of it. Like San Diego, out of any of the cities in California, is probably one of the nicest. Like in terms of like big cities, I'd say Orange County is probably the nicest part of California, because I also grew up with a beach house in Laguna Beach, and they don't have quite the same problems there. But, in San Diego, you walk out and you got to see, people with missing limbs, walking around like zombies and, shitting all over the street. Like, I mean, there's just no way to sugarcoat it. I mean, that's basically what you're subjugated to day in and day out. And fortunately, my dad had bought a place out in Arizona right before the pandemic hit. And I came out, because San Diego became like a jail cell rather quickly. And I really liked it out here, and knew that I, ultimately wanted to get out of California, and made the move a year later. So
isn't it sad, right? And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but just really quickly, I have talked to so many entrepreneurs that have left California. And what's sad about it is it's wonderful weather, right? I mean, it was a great place to live. But I mean, if you have a $7 million home in Orange County, and you got people pitching tents in the grass out in front along the street, no.
Yeah. One of my buddies has like a $5 million home, and he has to worry about getting robbed day in and day out. Like, I just don't want that.
No.
So you get like an instant pay raise by moving out, because the taxes are a lot, more favorable in other states. And then like, just, you got to look at it like, dollar for dollar, what are you getting like for quality of life? And it goes so much further in a place like Arizona, and everything's just nicer, just due to the sheer virtue that it's newer. We have a really like robust economy. It's not like based off of tourism or anything like that. Like, we have real manufacturing jobs, and, it's a big metropolis, and like, we're not landlocked either. We're fundamentally, California is like, if you fly over LA at night, like every inch of land that could be developed has been. It's, you have all these mountains that get in the way. So California probably has like 2 times as many people that should be in it. And like, that's why the Bay Area is like so crowded too. It's like, it was never like, when they planned the city, they never expected it to have that many people. So I don't even like going home anymore.
Did you guys, did your dad sell his property out in California? You still got it?
Yeah. All out of California. And then I convinced my mom to start building a house in Arizona too. So
Uh-oh, sounds like your mom and dad got divorced.
yeah. They're both happily remarried. But yeah, it's,
did you have siblings?
yep. I have a younger brother, and he actually lives with me, and he works for me at BuildFire, and then actually co-founded Laundry Sauce with me because we came up with the idea when we were together on an airplane.
Which one is he in the photo on the Laundry Sauce website? Is he on the left or the right?
He's the redheaded one with the big beard.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
On the website. Yeah,
gotcha. Who's the other guy?
He's one of my best friends. I met him actually when I was in college. And what's funny is so we were roommates in San Diego for a little bit. Then he went off and got married. And then he wanted to get out of California as well. And we happened to both independently be looking at the exact same neighborhood in Arizona. Okay. And he lives less than a mile down the street from me.
Is that why you on the website it says 3 brothers, but he's not actually okay?
Yeah, he might as well be a brother at this point. So.
I see. Does he work at the company too?
So he started off, working at BuildFire for a while. And then he ended up going off to Cisco App Dynamics, doing enterprise sales there. And now he's working at another company called Data Robot. But okay, yeah, he's we're both juggling a lot, running both multiple companies. So
sounds like it. Let me ask you really quick before we get too far down into Laundry Sauce. Your mom, did she have a career as well? Did she just take care of you and your brother? What was her story? What's her short story?
She actually did sales at Kodak, and that's actually where my mom and dad met. Oh. So my dad was an instructor, and my mom was one of the students for training. Yeah, so that's what my dad was. He was working up in Kodak in Rochester, New York, and my mom was living in Detroit or something, and flew out. And that's where they ended up meeting, and then ended up coming out to the West Coast to go pursue, Silicon Valley dream. So my mom was actually the one that was working while my dad was building this company Calpana, where they did the Ethernet switch. Mm-hmm. And he went all in. Took a second mortgage out on the home, just full send, and fortunately it all worked out.
Okay, how old were you when they separated?
I think I was 16 or so, but fortunately my dad ended up just living right down the street, so I could walk to his place. Okay. Wasn't that big a deal.
So it wasn't earth crushing for you and your brother then?
No, and then I kind of view it now I got 2 families. I love my stepmom, I love my stepdad, so okay. Yeah.
Okay, very good. But you get your entrepreneurial juice from your dad, obviously.
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah. I mean, you were okay, I see my dad, he was an entrepreneur. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, got it. BuildFire, can you talk about the ownership structure? I mean, I know your dad invested. So is it, is it family owned? Have you taken on PE money, VC, outside investors?
Yeah.
What's the makeup? Yeah.
Yeah, I know we do have outside investors, as well as my family has funded it as well. I think we've raised, about 6.5 million so far.
Okay.
So it's a bit, when you look at how much some of the other companies in the space have raised, we're kind of bringing a knife to a gunfight. A lot of the guys have either raised tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. So,
but you haven't had to. You haven't had to, or have you tried?
No, we've mainly kind of gone with this approach, because what ends up happening is if you raise a ton of money, it's a balance, right? Because if you sell too much of the company early on, you get so diluted, it's not really worth it. Are
you and your dad still in control right now? Is the quote family in control of the cap table?
Yeah, the family's in control of the cap table right now. Okay. So
well, that's good. That's good. I mean, hey, if you can make good money on a, I'm guessing you're doing less than 100 million in volume. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you can make great money doing less than 100 million in volume, and you still have control of your cap table, and you're making a great living, I mean, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Why go out and raise a bunch of money?
Yeah. It's true, but there's also like the focus on growth versus profitability, and typically, like with services businesses, you're looking at more profitability metrics, whereas like software, because you're getting a multiple based off of your revenue. So typically, the way you can generate a lot of wealth is like getting liquidity at some point. So with software, it's somewhat build to sell. Or services businesses, it's like build them to cash flow, and then you take that cash flow and invest them into other, software businesses or other investment opportunities.
Yes, great advice for the listeners right there. I hope everybody took notes right there from Ian, because that's exactly right. I own a service business because Riderflex is a recruiting firm. So yeah, for us, it's all about, we know we're judged on some profitability, right? It can't just be the top line, at least for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, great advice right there. Let me,
Yes.
so what's the plan? Do you want to sell it? Are you going to keep it? What are we doing here with BuildFire?
Yeah, there's got to be liquidity at some point for investors. And, we are looking at doing a larger round at the moment to both provide liquidity as well as, growth capital as well. So, when you look at the capitalization of other companies, when they're, 50 million in funding or 100 million in funding, and like, as like the talent market is incredibly competitive, and
Yep.
software businesses, they're really people businesses, because at the end of the day, the product is intangible and it's like what your people create. So when you see how much some companies are paying for employees at the moment, it doesn't make sense. But it makes sense when you got $50 million in the bank account that you got to burn through. So
that's right. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So you are gonna have an event at some point, but you're not burning cash still, right? You're making money.
Yeah, I mean, we typically take like all of our the profits and just reinvest into growth, because it makes a lot more sense to grow faster, because it's like your multiple is based off of top line revenue when it comes to SaaS, or typically your ARR, your annual recurring revenue. And then the higher you get a higher multiple, the faster you're growing. So if you're growing like 0 to 20% a year versus 20 to 40 versus 50 versus like doubling, all the multiples are pretty strongly correlated with your overall growth rate.
You are well educated on this, Ian. Is this from your dad? Is this from college? Is this from your own study, or a combination of all three?
I mean, just being around this like my whole life, you just kind of get ingrained into the environment. But I think really where I've learned the most of it is just been, being a part of masterminds and surrounding myself with other successful entrepreneurs. And I just invest a lot in personal growth over the years.
Does your dad ever call you up and say, "What the hell are you doing? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that?" Is there any of that?
No, I mean, he's a little bit older at this point. So he's 69 and I'm 29. And, I think he stays relevant through me. So, I mean, he's got wisdom on his end, and like those things that, never change. But more or less like, what's happening in the now, like I'm much more a part of that than he is.
Does he read the financials and call you over like little line items? Is he like, "Hey, why is Verizon?"
No, because we're all big picture thinkers,
Okay.
So he's not in the weeds like that.
Okay, that's cool though, that you guys, and your relationship is still solid with your dad and your brother.
Yeah, exactly. I talk to my dad pretty much every day. So
I mean, that's really, all joking aside, Ian, that's quite an accomplishment to have the business for 7-8 years.
Yeah.
You and your dad still have a great relationship. Your brother's working with you, and you said lives with you, I think.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be days where you just want to punch each other, right? I mean, there has to.
Yeah, but it's been like that ever since we've been like 3 years old, So some things just never change. But I don't know. It's funny how like sometimes people like, will think my brother and I are arguing. It's like, no, this is just how we always talk to each other.
You're in the conference room. You're in like a conference meeting. And you guys are just going at it, and everybody else is just kind of sinking down in their chair.
Yeah.
All right. What's the status with your social life? Are you girlfriend, married?
No,
what's your
I'm
deal?
single, but my whole like philosophy in life is like work hard, play hard.
Okay.
So
you have a different partner every weekend. That's what you're saying. It's okay. You can admit it.
Well, there's I definitely like to hang out with some attractive ladies. There's no doubt about that. But it's like you got to bring them along for fun things. So like I'm a big skydiver. Same thing with my brother. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So
my brother. All right. Tell me about it. Yeah.
My brother's got over 500 jumps. I have 126.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. So that's you get to hang around NASCAR drivers. And by the way, is that sold? Did your dad sell that off?
Yeah, but we did that in 2001 and 2002. And, the way to make a small fortune in racing is to start with a large one.
Okay. So it wasn't making money. Okay. But it was fun. And now the skydiving.
Yeah.
So that's a hobby for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you meet chicks doing that or no?
No, I mean, I'm generally not into the chicks that skydive, but it's fun to bring girls that don't skydive to take them skydiving.
Ooh, there you go.
It's a great first date, like there's not many things that will excite your emotions to that level in a positive manner,
I mean, that would work good. That's a good pickup line. You're like, hey, look, I'm 29. I'm the CEO and founder of a company. I've been doing this shit since I got out of college. By the way, I skydive as well. Would you like to come with me? I mean, how can they say no? I mean, come on. Plus, you're a good looking guy. I mean, it's automatic.
Well, and what's nice about it is it's like incorporated into my like everyday, or not every day, but like I do that for fun on the weekend. So it's like, hey, I'm going skydiving. You want to come with me? You know?
So, cool, but nobody, no, like I love you relationships. Nothing serious yet, huh?
I've had serious girlfriends, but at the moment, no, I don't have anything right now. Okay. So,
all right, ladies. If you're listening, you might want to get in before the exit of BuildFire because then you're in before the big payday.
Yeah. So another thing that I like to do for fun, like a big part of my social life, is actually like exotic car events. So I drive supercars and do a lot of stuff with that.
Do you own some?
Yeah, I have a McLaren 600 LT. So I got that a couple years, I think 3 years ago now.
What's the value? What's the value of that?
That car was $325K.
What? Do they even have insurance for cars that cost that much? I mean, what is the insurance monthly on something like that?
Yeah. So I was 26 when I got it, and I didn't know what it was going to cost to insure it. So like, I was like, fingers crossed. And it was only like $700 a month. So it's like, it's not too bad. Yeah.
Oh, I just assumed it'd be much more. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I think it actually might've been a little bit less, maybe like $600. It actually, for some reason, went up when I moved to Arizona, but
325,000. Where's that thing parked in? Like a vault?
My garage.
You drive it on the weekends? Like you bust it out on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, there's great roads to go drive out here in Arizona. A lot of people, I don't think look at supercars the right way. Like personally, I love cars, and if I was the only person on planet Earth, I would drive them. Like I just have a pure passion for them. But like supercars are also like a membership to a country club. Like you get access to very unique individuals, especially when you go and participate in the community. When you go to events, like everyone that shows up with several $100,000 cars, like they're generally of a certain caliber, and then you ultimately get to meet like really interesting people that you wouldn't otherwise have met without kind of that common denominator of supercars.
Without naming a name and just talking about the person, like who's the most eccentric, odd billionaire that you've hung out with and you're just like, wow, that guy's not from this planet? Because I know you had to have met some.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So in San Diego, I was a part of this car club called Fast Lane Drive, and I think there's like 3 or 4 billionaires in that. And then I've been working on building the Arizona chapter with a few other guys now that I'm out here. So
that's cool.
Yeah. It's kind of like a social networking club, and the common thread is everyone has supercars. We go do cool events together. So, and then
does everybody lie, by the way? Does everybody lie about how much they're worth and how big they are and how famous they are? Does everybody embellish it like just a little?
I don't know. I don't think so. Like, because one of the things that I find interesting about being in communities like that is generally people are pretty happy for each other's successes. Like it's not like, I mean, there's definitely like people that have more than others, right? But people aren't like generally like talking down to people. Yeah, it's generally a pretty positive environment, and everyone's always encouraging each other to do better. So I really haven't had too many like negative experiences in that kind of crowd of people, but occasionally, I mean, there are like, people are human, so you come across them.
Yeah.
But I would say that's been, in my experience, more of the minority rather than, you see it that often.
How about that? Interesting. Okay. All right. You got to tell me more of those stories, more than like hanging out on a yacht with billionaires. We'll talk about that over beers someday when I'm down in Arizona. Okay. So by the way, for the listeners, buildfire.com, buildfire.com. Is that where anybody should go that's interested in, or that needs an app? Is that what
Yeah.
it is? Okay.
Exactly. If you have an app idea, you can go on there and you can sign up for a free trial and start building it on your own, or you can get in touch with one of our app consultants and we can figure out, how we can best bring your idea to reality.
Okay. Now let's get into this new thing you're doing. This laundry. So I'm hunting you down. I'm studying you this morning, getting ready for the podcast interview. I'm trying to like, okay, well, I think I got the right LinkedIn profile up, but I don't see laundry sauce on here. What's going on here? Do I got the right guy? And I'm looking around. Anyway, I do get to the laundry sauce website. I get to the website, by the way, for the listeners, it's laundrysauce.com. And then I see it and I'm like, okay, this has a very cool feel. My immediate reaction was the Dollar Shave Club kind of mentality and pitch from a marketing perspective. That's what it reminded me of. And I liked it. I was immediately attracted to it. I thought, okay, somehow they've figured out how to make laundry detergent kind of cool, which I didn't even know you could do. But anyway, I'm looking back at your profile and I'm like, what the hell? What is he? He's going to be a CPG guy now? What's going on here? So give me the story, Ian. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So, part of, being involved in all these communities, from BuildFire, like kind of getting me access to those. I've always been interested in e-commerce. Like ever since I was in college, I had this whole fascination of people going to your website and paying you money without ever talking to you. So e-commerce has always been really interesting to me. I sold stuff on eBay when I was a kid. So, and I've had a lot of friends that have been very successful in e-commerce. So I kind of knew what types of e-commerce businesses can grow really fast, where you get scalability, kind of the product categories that you want to be in. And I was flying out to our lake house with my brother and on the airplane, and I got targeted for this ad called Speed Sauce. And I was like, I wonder if anyone's ever turned laundry sauce into a brand, because I think that'd be really funny. Because laundry sauce, that term got coined from a meme maybe 6 years ago or something, and it went viral. So my brother and I had called laundry detergent laundry sauce. And
I see you. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So then the domain was available for sale, and for $650. So I just bought it right then and there. So I'm like, This is brilliant. And I start to think about some of the biggest constraints you typically run into as an e-commerce store. If you're a retailer, maintaining thousands of SKUs is very difficult from an inventory perspective, supply chain perspective, also even just the web development perspective. So if you can have just one or two products, that's about as simple as it can get. And then I also wanted the ability to have, SaaS is interesting because of the whole recurring nature of it, right? So people pay you a long-term annuity. So I wanted a product that, people would consume. So when I sold golf balls on eBay, that's cool. That's people are always running out of golf balls because you lose them. They're consumable.
Yes.
And, fundamentally laundry detergent goes down the drain every time you use it.
That's right.
And it's a non-discretionary consumer good. You're not going to see one of these days, I'm just going to stop buying laundry detergent. You need it. Every single person, whether or not you're doing your laundry, you still need that product in your life.
Yep.
So I just found that really fascinating. And then it kind of just checked all the boxes that I kind of had in mind for, what would make a really simple e-commerce business. And, initially I thought the idea would be way, way, way easier to execute too. It turns out there's a lot of really complex chemistry behind it. Cause I thought you could just go on Alibaba and just go buy this stuff and it'd be super easy. Turns out the stuff that you can buy on Alibaba doesn't actually clean your clothes. Cause fortunately we do have a technical advisor that worked at Unilever for 10 years in the laundry division. And he's got a PhD in analytical chemistry. So, he's been our guidance along the way to actually make sure that we, develop products that work and are functional and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, we were doing performance monitoring, taking, leading competitor products and, what these, detergents in China could do. And it couldn't even
a little harder. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you, you and your dad and your brother, invested in this? How was it funded?
Yeah. So actually, there's me, my brother, and then my other business partner, Rob. Like we funded it initially for like, I don't know, maybe the first 150K or so. Because I remember when I told my dad about the idea, he thought it was so dumb, and he's like, "I will never give you $1 to pursue this idea." And I'm like, "I don't care. I'm doing it anyway." And then, we eventually, like, I mean, the idea also did evolve considerably, throughout the, kind of evolution and the months went on. But we ended up, putting together a pretty solid brand identity, website design, product design. And then we did some like initial videos, kind of ads for the product. And
the videos are great. Videos are great, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that those videos like really brought the kind of life to the brand and got people to buy into it. And then, I mean, for this business, like I've had like, what's interesting is like, I'll tell someone about the idea. And then like the next question is like, can I invest?
Are you taking money? Are you looking for?
Yeah. No. I've already raised plenty of money for it. It's very well capitalized. We have a nice war chest of cash to take this to market with.
Oh, did you go? Have you done this like a Series A or just seed money or angel? What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, we did like an initial seed to prove that we could sell it, and then it just started, selling like bonkers, and like there's tremendous scalability for this. So, when you think about, a typical business, like take your business. So, in order for you to make more sales, you need more recruiters. You got to go find more people. You have to have a sales team. So, like, there's all these like constraints that are in place. Whereas this e-commerce business, like, you don't have those fundamental constraints. So, like I view them as like, I like to think of them as spreadsheet businesses. So when you have like your cost per acquisition nailed down and it's like predictable at scale, you just essentially change like a number that you're spending in, Facebook or Google. Like we went, like if you're spending $10,000 a day and you can crank it to like $50,000 a day and spend, you basically have these infinitely scalable digital salespeople, like AKA your ads, that go like interrupt people's day to say, hey, come buy my shit, right? And you can just feed this ATM machine like as fast as possible. And like you get tremendous amount of scalability there. And then also, like over the years, like there's been a lot of infrastructure that's been put in place for e-commerce. So like when we have an order that comes through, it's almost like an API that like our site just goes off and hits our 3PL, our fulfillment center, and like they put our box in another box and send it off. Like I fundamentally don't have to deal with any of it. So if we go from like 100 orders a day to 1,000 orders a day to 5,000 orders a day, like nothing changes on my end. Like that's their responsibility to go manage like the $15 an hour warehouse workers and like make sure our box goes in another box and gets sent off to the shipping companies.
Where are you manufacturing the sauce? Where's that being made?
It's all made in North America, but I'm not going to get into the details of where it's made.
Okay, so it's made in the US.
Yeah.
Canada. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So my question was, if you go from 1,000 to 50,000 in the orders, do you have the supply chain for it? Is there a lead time, or do you have a giant?
Yeah. So that's one of the that's another big constraint that you have with like e-commerce companies. So like if you can sell it, what does your supply chain look like? And like when you do a generic, like I essentially see like laundry detergent as a generic commodity, right? Okay. So when within commodities, there's already like a tremendous amount of scale that already exists, right? So you're just basically like tapping into existing manufacturing infrastructure, rather than like having to build a really like unique product. Because also part of my idea was like I didn't want to have like a tremendous like R&D process going into building a product like this. Like when you think about like a Bluetooth speaker or something, like one is a super crowded market, but like it's a hard product to make, and it might be hard to scale that up to thousands to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of units. Where laundry detergent, you're taking essentially bulk chemicals and, putting it through a machine, and then it puts it in pods.
Okay. So all right. So I'm going to take a pause right. I'm going to take a breath right here. So there's a manufacturer somewhere that your vendor is already making shit tons of laundry detergent, and you call them up and you're like, I need 100,000 more. And they're just, okay, they're pushing some buttons. Yeah. They're sending your product through. They're injecting it with your scent or whatever that you put into it and kicking it out the door. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's really how we made our product unique. Like our secret sauce is like the fragrance and like the whole brand experience that we've created.
Okay.
And what's interesting is, we also have like a really strong performing formula. And there's so many people that I don't think actually buy like laundry detergent that cleans. Like when I was looking in, when I was looking into this whole like market and like seeing like, what detergents clean better than others. Like I looked at what my mom had in her cabinet when I was home, and I'm like, I looked at like her stuff, like didn't have any enzymes in it. Like it doesn't actually like clean your clothes. And then we get all these like reviews from people saying like, I've never had anything that's cleaned, as well as our stuff or is laundry sauce. And like, it's just pretty interesting to get that feedback, knowing that we put together like a really, really like strong product.
What about the target towards men? And are you going to
Yeah.
stick with that? Are you going to hold strong to that? Are you going to ease into targeting women more? I mean,
Yeah.
what's your strategy?
So what's really cool when you advertise on Facebook is the amount of demographic information that you get access to. So a lot of the times, in B2B, you're like, well, who's my core customer? And like, your sample sizes are still like relatively small, versus, like a CPG. I mean, you're dealing with tens of thousands of purchases, hundreds of thousands of website visitors. You just have like much more data at play. And initially we had geared it much more as like a men's brand, and turns out half of our traffic's female. And when you read some of the reviews on our site, you hear, moms that want to buy it for all the boys in the house or something like that. But like, there's actually women that really like our fragrances. So we are expanding into that as well. So we actually have a woman's fragrance that we're working on called Egyptian Rose. And it's going to come in like a rose gold box, like actually like rose gold foil. It's, the packaging we definitely go over the top with, because I think that creates like a great product experience. So like we'll have our Australian sandalwood, which is, a bit more male oriented. And then our Siberian pine, which is our white box, that's a bit more unisex. And then we'll have our Egyptian rose, which will be a bit more feminine oriented.
I like it. Now, right now you can only buy on your website, because I couldn't find it on Amazon. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Maybe eventually we get to the marketplaces, but right now, like there's a lot of value in having first party data, because basically when you're selling on Amazon, you really don't have like any access to the customer data. And then when people see your ads, like they might immediately go to Amazon, and then, you're missing out on all that like tracking. And when you're scaling, you want to have as much data as possible. So it's like, it's a conscious decision not to go onto those platforms. And then also, another common constraint you hear in e-commerce people is, like they get so tied to Amazon that their entire business and existence is just completely dependent on what Amazon does. So if Amazon wants to shut you off, I mean, you can be out of business pretty quickly.
What about wholesaling into retailers?
Yeah, so we're interested in it. It would have to be the right retailers, because we're like a premium brand. So like, I'd rather be in like, Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom. Like, I don't want to necessarily be at Walmart,
Okay.
You don't put a Rolls Royce dealership right next to like a, Chevy dealership.
Well, it's good to not let Amazon and Walmart control your entire brand anyway, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Can you tell us what you're doing in revenue so far? You want to share it?
It's a lot.
Is Laundry Sauce doing more than BuildFire in revenue?
It will be in a couple months. Yeah. Like on a monthly basis. Yeah.
Really.
So
how the hell are you CEO of both companies?
Yeah.
Dude, how do you even have time to go skydiving? I don't know. What do you, Superman?
Well,
what do
you know all about it. You got to build the right team. And what's kind of where I've gone with Laundry Sauce is, instead of hiring employees, I've hired agencies. So, an agency is fundamentally going to make, 20 to 30% margins on their labor, but like they're the ones, responsible for kind of like orchestrating that team. Yeah, I mean, you're getting like world-class talent. So what's nice about having a very simple product, it's not hard to get a marketing team up to speed, right? And, so I have like an agency that does, just our web development, an agency that does our videos, an agency that does our media buying, an agency that does our email marketing. So, kind of outsource all the core functions of the business to agencies rather than employees. So with agencies, you're typically delegating an outcome, and they know they have to deliver on that. And agencies are fairly replaceable. So that's where I think we've gotten I think a bit of scale and, made it easy for us. But, one of the things that I want to kind of come back to is like, well, how on earth can this business grow so fast? And I'll give you just a couple examples.
Okay.
I don't think there's any other business vehicle that exists to go from like 0 to 100 million than D2C e-commerce, like in a very short period of time without a tremendous amount of capital. So like, there's SaaS businesses that have done that, but typically they've raised a ridiculous amount of money to make it happen. So like if you look at Manscaped, they went from 3 million to 300 million in revenue in 3 years, and they're about to IPO for $1 billion. And they raised about 28 million in funding. There's like brands like Native Deodorant, they went from like 0 to 30 million, I think in 2 years, and sold to Procter and Gamble for like 100 million. Dollar Shave Club, they exited for over $1 billion. So, kind of the D2C play is like, how do you take, some generic boring thing and make it exciting, right? Like Dr. Squatch, they did it for bar soap. Dollar Shave Club and, Harry's, they did it for, razors. And, I think it's interesting to look at some of these companies. Like, for example, Manscaped, I fundamentally think, laundry detergent is a bigger market than ball razors, and they've turned it into a, several $100 million a year business, like very quickly. But that kind of comes back to these like principles of, when you have your unit economics, right, you can just basically feed these ATM machines. Like, you're basically taking like the most powerful AIs in the world, like Google and Facebook, that have been built entirely for, e-commerce purposes. And what's cool is, when you're using a platform like Shopify, like these AIs have access to all your sales data. So like you're feeding it good creative, and then their AIs are figuring out like, who do I go target that's like most likely to buy your product? And then they have like all the data in your, e-commerce system to, to improve. And, when you're doing like, tens of thousands of transactions, like you have a lot more like data points to optimize from, rather than like B2B where you have, 200 leads might be a lot for some businesses, like if you're like if you sell it to enterprise customers, it might be like 15 leads a month or something. So I really like the whole notion of like just the amount of data you get in B2C.
Okay, let me come back to my question though. How are you doing? How are you balancing your life? I want to make sure. Yeah, I know. How are you balancing between the two? And is that your plan to run both?
Yeah, for the time being. So, we'll see how long I can do that for. But so far I've been making it happen. And generally the way I do it.
Did your dad, have you gone over to your dad and you were like, Dad, what's up? I told you. Did you have that little conversation?
Yeah. When we had the launch party, I called him out on that because I had a big launch party at my house, and, we were telling everyone kind of the whole evolution of the brand. And I made sure to bring that point up. And
he wasn't an investor, right?
No, he invested like after we had put up a decent amount of money, but
and then you're like, Dad, these units per unit, now the cost is XYZ. You could have bought in way earlier.
Yeah, exactly. But in terms of, kind of how I balance this all, like, Monday through Friday, I work a lot, and then, I take the weekends off.
Okay.
I generally, and I've kind of maintained that for, many, many years. Like, I'm not like opposed to doing a little bit of work on the weekends, but generally it's, kind of an exception. So
you're driving your cars, you do skydiving. What else? What are your other hobbies?
Yeah. So big into, basically board sports and motorsports. Like those are my things. And then also skydiving. So like snowboarding, surfing, wakeboarding, wake surfing. So I've just grown up doing board sports my whole life, and like, I love it. I love adventure and like doing just fun stuff. And, skydiving is definitely the most extreme of those realities in my opinion, but,
what's the long-term plan for Ian? Do you just love building companies? Are you going to keep building them and selling them and exiting and then looking for the next one? Like, what do you see yourself doing long-term?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I do like, I really love building things, like taking an idea and turning it into reality.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. That's where your passion is. I mean, I know you're a numbers guy. It's obvious you're a numbers guy and you're a money guy, but I feel a lot of passion around the building something from scratch. I feel that on you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the question will be like, do I do it again? Because like after I'd started BuildFire, I was like, okay, if I'm ever doing another business, I'm going to buy one and then, make it better. Because, generally entrepreneurs have to do all the hard work in the beginning to like prove it. But then, sure enough, we end up building another one. So who knows if I want to build another one or, buy something that I think is an interesting product and then, figure out how to apply capital and like increase the enterprise value very quickly. Because that's kind of the whole private equity play is you buy like underpriced assets, you inject capital into it and, arbitrage the enterprise value relatively quickly.
Let me ask you this. I know we're getting closer to the back end of this thing, going to run out of time. You're somewhat careful on your social media, your personal social media. You don't step out there a lot and say you're what I'd call conservative on your social media. Is that by design?
I think I like to share things that I like, which are, kind of like I mentioned off motorsports, board sports, and skydiving.
Okay.
I think where I post more of the things that, I wouldn't put up as posts is more on my story, if we're going out to a nightclub or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that'll go on my story. That wouldn't go on my posts.
I see. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, there's definitely an aspect of, want to go have fun and a good time, but it's a balance because there's also, people that look up to you and, you got to protect your public reputation. And I try and be thoughtful about it.
You're spending a lot of money with Facebook on ads. Facebook has been a huge part of building Laundry Sauce, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you something about the cancel culture from social media platforms.
Yeah.
Where what if Ian came out on Facebook and said, I don't know, whatever, something wild, right? Like that pissed them off, didn't fit their narrative. What if you did that? What if the brand came out and said something and they just canceled? Yeah. They just took your page down. How would you? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
So here, the biggest sin in humanity is hypocrisy, right?
Right. Yes.
And that's the only time you're ever going to get crucified. And I think it's interesting. Like when you look at people that can't necessarily, get canceled, like take a Joe Rogan, for example. Mm-hmm. Or like take a Dan Bilzerian, like Dan Bilzerian is like, very misogynistic and like, posts half naked women. Like that's what he's built his whole brand on, but like, that's authentic to who he is, versus if you had like a politician going and doing something like that, like that's incongruent with like the message that he's put out. So like, that's kind of that like hypocrisy is like the only sin that is against. So if you're like true to your values and you're just upfront about it, like I want to be a brand that can't be canceled because we're just like authentic with who we are,
Okay. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Very good answer. You're right. By the way, Rogan says a bunch of stuff that normal people would be canceled for.
Yeah. Yeah. But we all like, but he's like very, like, he's like, I like to smoke weed. I like to do psychedelics and I'm a cage fight commentator. Right? So, versus like, if you had like some politician, like doing mushrooms or something like that, like,
yeah,
there'd be outrage, or, so as long as you're just true to who you are, it's hard to get canceled.
That's good, Ian. That's really good stuff. Okay, 2 last questions here. If you could tell an aspiring entrepreneur anything right now with just a couple of little short tips, and I know you could write a book. You could write a book on it at this point, probably. But they're thinking about starting something, but they haven't. What would you tell them right now?
Well, you just got to do it. You got to put just one foot in front of the other. There's no like perfect time in life to make it happen, but it takes time. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like I like to think about it in terms of, growing a plant, right? Like you got to plant that seed and unfortunately it takes time to grow. You can keep watering it and watering it and watering it. And like, the more you water it doesn't mean it's going to grow faster. Like there's a certain time horizon to take, ideas from, that little seed to reality. I mean, it was 2 years before like I first came up with the idea to when we actually started selling laundry sauce. As much as I would have liked to expedite that and truncate that process, like it kind of went as fast as we could make it. So,
good point.
You got to start somewhere. But I mean, just sticking with maybe the plant analogy.
Yeah, it's good.
Like that seed, whatever seed you're planting, like you are very much like a byproduct of your environment. So one of the things that has always accelerated my like pace of learning and success has been being around people that are far more successful than I am. And you learn their habits, you learn what they talk about, you learn their strategies, and that will certainly speed up the the speed in which you're able to make something happen. So think of like your environment as the soil that your seed is growing in.
Good stuff. That is good stuff. Last question. If you had to define your core purpose in life, put it into a sentence, what would it sound like?
So I think about, well, it's like you have your personal life, and like I want to have fun and have a good time and live a fulfilling life, right? So like I think there's two aspects. There's the personal side, and then there's like what impact are you going to leave on society, and you can leave a variety of impacts, with what you do with your brand. So with BuildFire, we've helped many businesses, with our technology, and we've had like some really like inspiring stories, like Children's National Hospital, like their celiac center, they built an app on our system, tens of thousands of downloads, and it's helping like children that have like diseases. So the business that you're a part of can make a big impact as well. But then, I think of it like this: there's like societal impact, and then there's like environmental impact. So the one thing that is guaranteed to transcend your time on earth is the impact you leave on the environment. So one of the charities that I've always been interested in is 4Ocean. Like they're cleaning up the Great Pacific, garbage patch, like all this plastic floating around.
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. So, for example, with laundry sauce, like I want to partner with them. So like, as we sell more, like we're able to donate more to them, because I think that's like a cause that I'm passionate about, because I'm a surfer and I want clean oceans and stuff. But
yes.
Yeah. From the environmental impact, like societal changes, those, kind of ebb and flow, over the centuries, but, guaranteed your environmental impact will last a long time.
Ian, Blair, thank you so much for being on the Riderflex podcast and sharing your story. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me.